I was sitting in the glass conference room watching my boss Marcus smile at me like he was about to deliver good news. 7 years at this marketing firm. 7 years of staying late, fixing other people's mistakes, and making this company money. My heart pounded as he opened the folder with performance reviews. "Harper, your work this quarter has been exceptional," Marcus said, his voice warm. "The Davidson campaign exceeded expectations by 30%. The client loved your strategy." I leaned forward, waiting for the words I'd earned. The raise, the promotion, something. "Unfortunately, budget constraints mean we can't approve salary increases right now." His smile didn't waver. "But keep up the great work." My stomach dropped. I glanced at Chad sitting 2 seats down, scrolling through his phone like this meeting bored him. He looked up and caught my eye, then smirked. That was when I knew. "Actually," Marcus continued, "Chad, congratulations on your raise. Well deserved for your innovative thinking on the Peterson account." Chad's smirk widened. "Thanks, Marcus. I really put my heart into that campaign." I forced my face to stay neutral, but inside, I was calculating. The Peterson account, the one where I'd written the entire strategy while Chad took client calls. Walking back to my desk, I felt like I was underwater. Everything sounded muffled. My hands shook slightly as I sat down and stared at my computer screen. 7 years. Chad had been here 18 months. I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder I'd been building for months. Screenshots, email chains, timestamps, all the proof that Chad had been taking credit for my work. I'd started collecting evidence back in January when I noticed him presenting my ideas in meetings. The Peterson account file showed everything. My initial strategy document, dated 3 weeks before Chad even joined the project. His presentation slides, copied word for word from my notes. Client emails thanking Chad's team for my specific recommendations. My phone buzzed. A text from my work friend Janet. "Are you okay? You look pale in that meeting." I typed back, "Fine, just tired." But I wasn't fine. I was angry. No, I was focused. There was a difference. I closed the evidence folder and opened a new document. At the top, I typed Operation Receipts, because that was exactly what this was going to be. I'd been saving receipts, and it was time to cash them in. Chad walked past my desk, humming. He had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, Marcus assigned the Morrison project, our biggest potential client this year. "I'm thinking Chad should lead this one," he announced in our team meeting. "Harper, you'll support him." Support him. The word stung, but I smiled and nodded. Of course. Here was what Marcus didn't know. I'd been having coffee with Morrison's marketing director, Sandra, for 2 months. We'd met at a networking event. She'd specifically asked for me to handle their account if they signed with us. "Great," Chad said, already mentally spending his commission. "I'll set up the initial meeting for Friday." "Actually," I said quietly, "Sandra Morrison mentioned she prefers Tuesday meetings. Something about their board schedule." Chad waved his hand dismissively. "I'll handle client preferences, Harper." I shrugged and made a note in my planner. I also made sure to forget to send Chad the Morrison Company research I'd compiled last month. And I definitely didn't mention that Sandra hated the exact presentation template Chad always used. That night, I stayed late and emailed Sandra directly. "Hi Sandra, hope you're well. Looking forward to our Tuesday coffee as usual. Let me know if anything changes with the Friday presentation." She replied within an hour. "Wait, Friday? I thought we agreed on Tuesday meetings only. Is Harper still on the account?" Perfect. Friday morning arrived. Chad bounced into the office wearing his lucky tie, carrying his leather portfolio. "Big day, Harper. Ready to watch a master at work?" I smiled sweetly. "Can't wait." The Morrison meeting was at 10. At 9:45, Chad realized he didn't have the client research file. "Harper, where's the Morrison background info?" "I thought you were handling client preferences," I said, still typing. "But there might be something in the shared drive." He spent 15 minutes searching while I finished my actual work. At 10:05, his phone rang. "Marcus." "Chad, Sandra Morrison is asking why you're not there yet. She's confused about the meeting time." I watched Chad's face go white. "Meeting time? It's at 10, right? She says you scheduled it for 9:30. She's been waiting." Chad grabbed his stuff and ran out. I counted to 60, then calmly walked to the conference room where I knew the Morrison team was waiting. I'd had their real meeting time in my calendar for a week. "Sandra?" I smiled, walking in like I'd planned this perfectly. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Traffic was crazy. Sandra looked relieved. Harper, thank goodness. We were so confused when Chad didn't show up. I spent an hour with the Morrison team, presenting the strategy I'd been perfecting for months. Sandra took notes, asked smart questions, and by the end, she was nodding enthusiastically. This is exactly what we need, Harper. When can we move forward? Let me talk to my team and get back to you Monday. As they left, Sandra pulled me aside. Between us, I was nervous when I heard Chad was leading this. I've worked with enough guys like him, but you get it. When I returned to the office, Chad was pacing by Marcus's desk. His face was red and he was gesturing wildly. Harper, Marcus called. Can you come here? I walked over calmly. What's up? Chad says there was confusion about the Morrison meeting time. Oh no, I said, looking concerned. Sandra mentioned Tuesday meetings work better for their schedule. Did that get mixed up somehow? Chad stared at me. He knew exactly what I'd done, but he couldn't prove it without admitting he'd never actually talked to the client about preferences. Well, Marcus said slowly, how did the meeting go? Great, I replied. Sandra loved the strategy. I think we'll get the contract. That night, I drove home with the windows down, music loud. In my rearview mirror, I saw Chad's car still in the office parking lot. Monday morning, I arrived early and sent an email to the entire company. Subject, celebrating our rising stars. It was a simple document highlighting junior employees who'd done exceptional work recently. Janet from design, who'd created the award-winning visuals for the Henderson campaign. Mike from research, who'd found the insight that saved the Taylor account. Sarah from social media, whose content strategy had increased engagement by 40%. Chad's name appeared nowhere. I included specific metrics, client quotes, and project results, real achievements by real people who deserved recognition. I CC'd everyone, including the CEO. Within an hour, replies started flooding in. Great idea, Harper. These people are amazing. We should do this quarterly. The CEO, David Walsh, forwarded it to the entire leadership team with a note. This is the kind of culture building we need more of. Well done, Harper. By lunch, 3 people had stopped by my desk to thank me for including them. Janet actually teared up. No one ever notices the design team, she said. Thank you for seeing us. Chad walked past during this conversation. He'd been unusually quiet all morning. At 2 p.m., I got a calendar invite from David Walsh's assistant. Coffee Wednesday, 3 p.m. David wants to discuss your Rising Stars initiative. I accepted immediately. Wednesday's coffee with David went better than I'd hoped. He was genuinely interested in my thoughts on company culture and employee recognition. You know, Harper, I've been watching your work for a while. The clients speak very highly of you. That's nice to hear, I said, stirring my latte. Actually, Sandra Morrison called me yesterday. She specifically asked that you remain the primary contact on their account. I tried to look surprised. Really? That's wonderful. She said something interesting. She mentioned she'd been hoping to work with you specifically when they started considering our firm. David leaned forward. How long have you been building that relationship? Sandra and I met at the spring networking event. We've had coffee a few times. I believe in connecting with potential clients as people first. He nodded approvingly. That's exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need more of. When I got back to the office, there was a message on my desk. Chad wanted to see me in conference room B. I grabbed my notebook and headed over. This should be interesting. Chad closed the door behind me, his jaw tight. We need to talk. Sure. What's on your mind? You sabotaged the Morrison meeting. I tilted my head, genuinely confused. I'm sorry, what? The meeting time. You knew it was Tuesday, not Friday. Chad, Sandra mentioned in casual conversation that Tuesday meetings work better for their board schedule. I told you that in the team meeting. I pulled out my notebook and flipped to that day's notes. See? Right here. He stared at the page where I'd written, Chad, Morrison prefers Tuesday meetings, in clear handwriting. But you didn't give me the research file. You said you'd handle client preferences. I assumed that included background research. Chad's face reddened. This isn't over, Harper. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm just trying to do my job well. As he stormed out, I made a note in my book. Chad conversation, March 15th, 2:30 p.m. Seemed agitated about Morrison account. I always documented everything. That evening, I got an email from Sandra Morrison. Harper, we'd love to move forward with the contract. Can you send the final proposal by Friday? I forwarded it to Marcus and David, adding, excellent news. Happy to finalize this for the team. Thursday morning brought a surprise. I was called into HR for a routine check-in with Brenda, the HR director. Harper, we received a complaint that you've been undermining a colleague's work. My heart skipped, but I kept my expression neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me more about the specifics? The complaint suggests you deliberately withheld information on a client project. I nodded thoughtfully. I see. Well, I keep detailed records of all my work communications. Would that be helpful? Brenda looked surprised. You keep records? Of course, email chains, meeting notes, project timelines. I find it helps avoid confusion. I pulled out my phone. I can send you everything related to recent projects if that would help clear this up. That would actually be very helpful. I also have voice recordings of team meetings where project assignments were discussed. Would those be relevant? Brenda's eyes widened. Voice recordings? Just on my phone. I like to review important meetings later to make sure I didn't miss anything. Is that a problem? No, that's actually quite thorough. I spent an hour walking Brenda through my documentation. Email timestamps showing when I'd shared information, meeting recordings where assignments were clearly discussed, notes showing Chad's responses to offered help. By the end, Brenda looked uncomfortable. Harper, this is very comprehensive. Thank you for being so prepared. Friday brought the company's monthly Women in Strategy lunch that I'd organized last year. It had started small, just 3 of us meeting to discuss challenges and opportunities. Now we had 12 regular attendees from across different departments. Chad had tried to join once. I'd politely explained it was specifically for women to discuss gender-related workplace issues. He hadn't asked again. Today's lunch was special. We were discussing a case study about successful marketing campaigns led by women. I'd prepared examples from our own company's work. The Davidson campaign is a perfect example, said Karen from Analytics. Harper's strategy was brilliant, and the execution was flawless. What made it so successful? Asked Lisa, our newest hire. I walked through the research process, the client psychology insights, and the creative direction. As I talked, I noticed several people taking notes. You should present this at the next all-hands meeting, suggested Maria from PR. This kind of strategic thinking should be shared company-wide. That's a great idea, I said. I'll propose it to leadership. After lunch, I found an email from David Walsh. Harper, heard great things about today's women's lunch. Would love to hear more about your Davidson campaign insights. Can you present to the leadership team next week? I replied immediately. I'd be honored to share those insights with the team. When I returned to my desk, Chad was waiting. Heard you're presenting to leadership next week, Chad said, leaning against my desk. Yes, David asked me to share some insights from the Davidson campaign. Our Davidson campaign. I looked up from my computer. I'm sorry? We worked on that together. It was a team effort. I opened the Davidson project folder on my screen. You're absolutely right that it was collaborative. Your client calls were valuable. I scrolled through the documents. I'll make sure to mention everyone's contributions during the presentation. Chad's jaw tightened. I think I should co-present, since we developed the strategy together. That's an interesting idea. Let me check with David about the format he has in mind, but I already knew what I was going to do. The next morning I emailed David. For the leadership presentation, would it be helpful if I focus specifically on the strategic development process? I have detailed documentation of the research and insight development phases. His response came quickly. Perfect. The team is most interested in your strategic methodology. Keep it focused on your process. I forwarded this to Chad with a note. Looks like David wants me to focus on methodology rather than campaign overview, but I'll definitely mention the great team collaboration. Chad read it and walked away without responding. That afternoon, a client review appeared on our company's Google page. 1 star. The review blamed Chad specifically for poor communication and missed deadlines on a recent project. The leadership presentation went perfectly. I walked them through my strategic development process using the Davidson campaign as a case study. David asked smart questions. The CMO took notes. Even Marcus looked impressed. This is exactly the kind of systematic thinking we need to scale, David said. Harper, would you be interested in developing this into a training program for the whole strategy team? I'd love to contribute to team development. After the meeting, Marcus pulled me aside. Great presentation, Harper. Really professional. Thank you. I love sharing what I've learned. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something else. We've had some client feedback about Chad's recent projects. Nothing terrible, just some concerns about communication and follow-through. I nodded sympathetically. Client relationships can be challenging. Since you have such strong client connections, would you mind keeping an ear out? If you hear anything, let me know. Of course. That evening, I got a LinkedIn message from Tom Rodriguez, a former colleague who'd left the company 6 months ago. Hey Harper, saw your presentation post. Reminded me of something I meant to mention when I left. I have some emails about the Henderson project that might interest you. Chad took credit for work that wasn't his. Want to grab coffee? I accepted immediately. Coffee with Tom revealed exactly what I'd suspected. He showed me email chains from the Henderson project where Chad had claimed authorship of Tom's research and strategy work. I didn't say anything when I left because I was just glad to be gone. Tom explained, but seeing Chad still pulling the same tricks made me angry. This is really helpful context, I said, reading through the emails. The worst part? He convinced Marcus that I was the problem on that project, said I wasn't collaborative. Tom forwarded me the entire email chain. Do with this what you think is right. That night, I created an anonymous Gmail account and sent the emails to David Walsh with a simple note. You should be aware of this pattern of behavior. A concerned employee. I also sent copies to Brenda in HR. The next morning, Chad was called into an unexpected meeting with HR. He emerged looking shaken. When Marcus asked him about it later, Chad said it was just a routine check-in. But I noticed Brenda watching Chad more carefully during team meetings now. 2 days later, the Henderson client left another review mentioning excellent strategic work by the team, but noting that communication could have been clearer from the project lead. For the monthly all-hands meeting, I created a data visualization showing team performance metrics. Nothing fancy, just clean charts showing project success rates, client satisfaction scores, and revenue impact by team member. I used only publicly available data from our project management system. Client feedback scores, project completion rates, revenue attribution from signed contracts. The visual was clear and honest. My project success rate, 94%. Chad's, 67%. My average client satisfaction score, 4.7 out of 5. Chad's 3.2. I presented it as part of a broader discussion about measuring success and identifying best practices. When we look at the data objectively, we can see patterns that help us improve as a team. David asked if I could make the visualization available to all team leads. This kind of transparency helps us understand where to focus our development efforts. After the meeting, Janet approached me. Harper, that was brilliant. I never realized how much more successful your projects were. I think it's important to look at results honestly, I replied. We all have different strengths. Marcus cornered me later. Harper, I need to ask, was this directed at anyone specifically? Not at all. I thought transparency would help everyone understand our team's overall performance. Because the data on Chad? The data shows what it shows. I just reported the numbers from our system. Marcus nodded slowly. Understood. Everything changed Friday morning. I arrived to find 3 emails in my inbox, all from major clients, all requesting that I become their primary account lead. The first was from Sandra Morrison. Harper, we're so pleased with your work that we'd like you to handle our expanded campaign next quarter. The second was from Davidson Industries. We specifically request Harper Ellison for our upcoming product launch strategy. The third was from our biggest client, Pinnacle Corp. Based on our experience, we'd prefer Harper as our main point of contact going forward. I forwarded all 3 to Marcus and David with a note. Seems like we're building some strong client relationships. Happy to discuss how to best serve these accounts. Within an hour, my calendar filled with meeting requests. David wanted to see me at 2 p.m. Marcus scheduled time at 3:30. The CMO asked for a brief chat at 4. At 1:45, Chad appeared at my desk. We need to talk. I have meetings starting at 2. This will just take a minute. His voice was tight. What did you say to those clients? I'm sorry? Morrison, Davidson, Pinnacle. They all want you specifically. I haven't said anything inappropriate. I just focus on delivering good work. This feels coordinated. I looked at him calmly. Chad, these are clients responding to project results. That's how business works. He stared at me for a long moment, then walked away. My 2 p.m. with David was about to begin. David's office overlooked the city, and he gestured for me to sit in the comfortable chairs by the window rather than across from his desk. Harper, I'll cut to the chase. We have 3 major clients specifically requesting you. That doesn't happen by accident. I've worked hard to build those relationships. It shows. Here's what I'm thinking. We'd like to offer you a team lead position. You'd oversee strategy development for our top-tier accounts. My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral. That sounds like an interesting opportunity. What would that look like? Team of 4 strategists reporting to you. Salary increase, obviously. You'd basically run strategy for accounts over $5 million annually. And Chad? David paused. Chad would remain a senior strategist reporting to you. I let the silence stretch. Then, I appreciate the offer, David. Can I think about it over the weekend? Of course. But Harper, these clients trust you. We need to keep them happy. After the meeting, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, processing. They were scared. The clients wanted me, and if I left, I'd take their biggest accounts with me. I drove home with a secret smile. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Harper, this is Rebecca Chen from Quantum Marketing. We heard you might be interested in new opportunities. Would love to chat. Monday morning, I arrived to find an envelope on my desk. Inside was a printout of emails between Chad and another team member, complaining about my political maneuvering and suggesting I was creating artificial client dependencies. At the bottom, a handwritten note. Thought you should see this. A friend. I made copies and filed them carefully. Evidence of Chad trying to undermine me behind my back. At 10 a.m., Marcus called me into his office. Harper, about that team lead position. I've been thinking about it. Before you decide, I should mention there wouldn't be an immediate salary increase. Budget constraints, but the title change would happen right away. I nodded thoughtfully. So more responsibility, same pay? For now, but next quarter. I understand. I paused. Marcus, can I ask you something honestly? Sure. Do you think I've earned a leadership role here? He shifted uncomfortably. Of course. Your work speaks for itself. Then why offer me Chad's salary level? He got a raise last month for work I actually did. Marcus went quiet. Finally, Harper, what would it take for you to stay? Match my value, pay me what I'm worth, and no more pretending Chad and I are at the same level. I'll need to talk to David. That afternoon, I sent a carefully crafted message to 6 colleagues I respected most. Janet from design, Mike from research, Sarah from social media, Tom, who'd already left, Karen from analytics, Maria from PR. Hi everyone, I'm exploring some exciting new opportunities and would love your thoughts. If you're interested in hearing about a potential startup situation with significant growth potential, let me know. Looking for smart, ambitious people who want ownership in their work. 5 responded within hours. All interested. Tom called me directly. Harper, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Maybe. Would you be interested in building something new? Hell yes. When do we start? By Wednesday, I had informal commitments from 4 people to join whatever I was planning. They were all tired of the politics, the undervaluation, the credit stealing. David emailed requesting another meeting. Subject, revised offer. But that same day, Rebecca Chen from Quantum Marketing called. Harper, we've heard incredible things about your client relationships. We're prepared to offer you a partnership track position, significant salary increase, and your choice of accounts. That's very generous. We also understand you might want to bring some team members with you. We're open to package deals for the right talent. I didn't commit to anything, but I took detailed notes. Thursday brought chaos. A major industry blog published an article about gender pay gaps in marketing firms. Our company was mentioned specifically, with quotes from anonymous female employees about being passed over for promotions. I read it carefully. The quotes didn't sound like me, but they accurately described experiences I'd had. Someone else was speaking up. Chad cornered me by the coffee machine. Did you talk to that reporter? What reporter? The one who wrote that hit piece about our company. I haven't talked to any reporters. This article makes us look terrible, and somehow you come out looking like a victim. Chad, I don't control what journalists write. This affects all of us, Harper. If the company looks bad, we all suffer. Then maybe we should focus on making sure people are treated fairly. He stared at me, realizing what I just said. You did this. I did my job well and let the results speak for themselves. That afternoon, my phone rang. David Walsh. Harper, we need to talk. Can you come up to my office immediately? His tone was serious. This could go either way. David's office felt different this time. He was standing by the window, looking stressed. Harper, I'll be direct. That article is causing problems with our board. They're asking hard questions about our culture and practices. I imagine they are. They specifically want to know how we're retaining top female talent. That's a reasonable concern. David turned to face me. Here's the situation. The board wants to promote you to Director of Strategy, effective immediately. Full salary adjustment, equity package, and budget to build your own team. I kept my expression neutral. That's quite a change from last week's offer. The board recognizes your value to the company. And Chad? Chad will be transitioning to a different role. Such as? We're still determining that. I sat quietly for a moment. David, I appreciate the offer, but I need to ask, is this because my work merits it, or because you're afraid of losing clients? He sighed. Both. You've earned this position multiple times over. We should have recognized that sooner. I need time to consider this. How much time? Through the weekend. Harper, I hope you know we value you here. I'm beginning to understand that. Friday evening, I met with my potential startup team at a quiet restaurant downtown. Janet, Mike, Sarah, Karen, and Tom via video call from his new city. So, I began, hypothetically, if someone were to start a boutique marketing strategy firm, focusing on mid-sized companies that need personalized attention, what would that look like? Mike grinned. It would look like everything we wish our current jobs were. Sarah nodded. Direct client relationships, creative freedom, actually getting credit for our work. And profit sharing, added Karen. If we're building something together, we should all benefit. I pulled out a folder. I've been working on a business plan, just as an exercise. Want to see? For the next 2 hours, we discussed structure, potential clients, funding, and logistics. By the end, everyone was excited. Harper, Janet said, when you said hypothetically, you didn't really mean hypothetically, did you? Not really, no. Tom's voice came through the laptop speaker. I have savings to contribute as startup capital, and I know 3 clients who would follow me to a new firm. I have 2 clients who've already asked if I ever go independent, I added. We decided to sleep on it over the weekend, but the energy in the room was electric. Monday morning brought an unexpected email in my personal account. It was from an internal address I didn't recognize, with the subject line FYI. The email contained a forwarded message chain between Chad and Marcus, sent Friday afternoon after my meeting with David. Chad to Marcus, we need to do something about Harper before she destroys this company. Marcus to Chad, what do you suggest? Chad to Marcus, document everything. Find a way to show she's been insubordinate. Build a case for termination. Marcus to Chad, that's risky. The clients love her. Chad to Marcus, the clients love the work she does. Any good strategist could maintain those relationships. My hands shook slightly as I read. They'd been planning to fire me after they'd secured the client relationships. The anonymous sender included a note. Harper, be careful. This was sent Friday at 5 p.m. I thought you should know. A friend. I screenshotted everything and forwarded it to my personal email, then deleted the original. At 9 a.m., my phone rang. It was Rebecca Chen from Quantum Marketing. Harper, we need to accelerate our timeline. Are you available to meet today? What's the urgency? We heard through industry contacts that your current company might be planning some organizational changes. We want to make sure we get our offer to you first. I met Rebecca at a sleek downtown office. Quantum Marketing's space was everything our current office wasn't. Collaborative, modern, and filled with people who looked genuinely happy to be working. Harper, here's our final offer, Rebecca said, sliding a folder across the conference table. Director of Strategic Partnerships, 40% salary increase, equity package, and full budget autonomy for your team. I opened the folder. The numbers were impressive. We're also prepared to extend offers to up to 5 team members you'd want to bring with you. That's very generous. We know talent when we see it. Your client results speak for themselves. Can I ask how you heard about potential changes at my company? Rebecca smiled. The marketing world is smaller than you think. Word gets around when companies start planning to push out their top performers. I closed the folder. I'll need to discuss this with my team. Of course, but Harper, don't wait too long. Good opportunities don't stay open forever. That evening, I called an emergency meeting with my startup team. We met at Janet's apartment. Change of plans, I announced. We need to move faster. I explained the forwarded emails and the accelerated timeline. So what are our options? Asked Mike. 3 choices. Take the quantum offer. Accept David's promotion and fight from the inside, or jump straight into our own company. What do you want to do? Sarah asked. I looked around the room at these talented, undervalued people who trusted me enough to follow me anywhere. I want to build something that can't be taken away from us. Tuesday morning, I arrived early and found Marcus waiting by my desk. Harper, we need to discuss your future here. Sure. Your office? Actually, let's use conference room A. I've asked Chad to join us. My stomach tightened, but I followed him calmly. Chad was already seated, looking unusually confident. Harper, Marcus began, we've been reviewing your recent interactions with colleagues and clients. Okay, there are concerns about your collaborative approach. I kept my expression neutral. Can you be more specific? Chad leaned forward. You've been undermining team unity, creating divisions between staff members, such as the women's lunch group excludes male colleagues. Your data presentation embarrassed team members publicly. You've been cultivating separate relationships with clients. Marcus nodded. We're also concerned about some of the documentation you've been keeping. It suggests a lack of trust in your teammates. I realized what was happening. They were building their termination case. I see. I stood up. Well, this has been very illuminating. Harper, sit down. We're not finished. Actually, Marcus, I think we are. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, one more thing. I pulled out my phone and hit play on a voice recording. Chad's voice filled the room. Document everything. Find a way to show she's been insubordinate. Build a case for termination. Both men went white. Funny thing about keeping documentation, I said. Sometimes it protects you in unexpected ways. I spent Tuesday afternoon writing my resignation letter. It was professional, brief, and effective immediately. But I also wrote a second letter, addressed to the entire company. To my colleagues. Today, I'm announcing the launch of Ellison Strategy Partners, a boutique marketing firm focused on strategic excellence and collaborative culture. I'm thrilled to share that 5 exceptional colleagues will be joining me. Janet Rodriguez, Creative Director, Mike Chen, Research Director, Sarah Williams, Digital Strategy Director, Karen Lopez, Analytics Director, and Tom Martinez, Client Relations Director. Our first 4 clients include Morrison Industries, Davidson Corp., Pinnacle Holdings, and Henderson Group, companies that value partnership over politics. For colleagues interested in learning more about opportunities with ESP, please reach out directly. To my friends at the company, thank you for 7 wonderful years. You taught me that the best revenge isn't getting even, it's building something better. Best, Harper. I sent both letters at exactly 5 p.m., then walked out carrying only my personal items. My phone immediately started buzzing with calls and texts. David, Marcus, Chad, I ignored them all. By Wednesday morning, Ellison Strategy Partners had a website, business registration, and 6 potential clients requesting proposals. Chad had kept my job, but I'd kept my clients, my team, and my self-respect. It turned out the best way to win was to stop playing their game and start playing your own.